Hello guys, my name is Sir Ike and today I'm going to be taking you through on how to design this beautiful church sticker. You monitor me, you die. Alright, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please, if you are new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and also click the bell notification so as to get new updates on all the videos I will be uploading in subsequent time. So now let's jump straight to Photoshop. Alright, in these tutorials, I'm going to be using the latest version of Photoshop, which is CC 2020. If you are using the older version, it makes no difference, still the same thing. And I'm going to be adding a link below so you can click and download all the resources like images I will be using for this tutorial. Now, let's get started. So the first thing is to go to File, so I'm going to click New. Here we will type in the name of the sticker. The theme of the sticker is You Monitor Me, You Die. So I'm going to type in You Monitor Me. I'm going to set the width to 8 inches and I'm going to set the height to 4.5 inches. If yours is not in inches, kindly click in here and you will see inches on the drop down, then select inches. Alright, this tutorial we're going to be setting our resolution to 300. Here in color mode, it's in RGB because I'm not going to print it out. You can only set your color mode to RGB when you are not going to print out the artwork. But if you are going to take the artwork to printer, then you have to set it to CMYK. But in this tutorial, I'm not going to print it out, so I'm going to leave it at RGB. After that, I'm going to hit OK. So in this place, the first thing we have to target is the background. Select your rectangle tool and draw a shape. Click and drag from this end to this end, like so. We are going to change the color of this background, but before that, let's give it a name. So come to the layer panel and you will see the rectangle we just drew now. So double click on it and let's call it my background. And I will press enter on my keyboard. Now we are going to change the color of this background. So if you watch closely at this background layer, you will see another inner rectangle inside. That's the color palette, and when we double click on it, this color picker will appear. So here we are going to select the color we will be using for this background. So I'm going to click anywhere here and I'll drag it all the way down till I get a dim color like this. And if you want to get exactly the same color that I'm using now, so you come down to this area, you will see the color code here, 4A0C0C. So you type in this color code inside your own color picker and you will get the same color as mine. And after that, you hit OK. We're going to be creating two shapes at the background. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle like so. Now I'm going to click and drag my ruler from the left side to the middle. If you don't have ruler on your own, select the move tool and press Ctrl R on your keyboard. Now go to your pen tool, right click on the pen tool and you will see curvature pen tool. So select curvature pen tool and come to the middle like this and click and drag this shape up like so. And you click yes. Then select your move tool. Now I want to reduce the size of this shape, so I'm going to be dragging it down from the top. So hold down the shift key on your keyboard and go to the top and drag it all the way down like so. Hit OK. Now it's time for us to remove the ruler in the middle, and to do that, simply go to View, then go down. You will see Clear Guides. So click on Clear Guides and the ruler will disappear. The next thing we're going to be doing now is to give this particular shape a white color. And to do that, just go to the layer panel here and locate the shape. Double click on the inner rectangle and this color picker will show. So click anywhere inside this color picker and drag it all the way to the white region like so. And click OK. So currently here is our white shape. So we are going to duplicate this shape right now, and to do that we are going to use the shortcut key Ctrl J on the keyboard, but we can still right click on it and select duplicate layer. But because of this tutorial we are going to be using shortcut key throughout. So click on the shape and press Ctrl J on your keyboard. Now we have two copies of this shape here. So the one at the top, which is the copy, is going to remain white, but we are going to change the color of the one under, which is rectangle 1. So I'm going to select it, then double click on the inner rectangle to show the color picker. Here you can click anywhere and drag to your desired color, but for this tutorial we have a color code that we will be using together. So kindly come down to this place and in here type in the color codes that I will be mentioning to you right now. That is B1AB7E. So type it inside your own color picker, and after that you kindly hit OK. Now you won't be seeing the shape just because the white one at the top is covering it. So for you to see the shape, kindly select your move tool, then make sure that the shape is selected, the one under, then hit the up arrow key on your keyboard multiple times and the shape will show up like so. Now I have an eyeball I want to use as a watermark at the background to make it more beautiful. So I'm going to go to my project folder here, then I'm going to grab this eyeball here down to Photoshop. I'm going to place it somewhere here and I'm going to reduce the size like so. And I'm going to drag it here. So I'm going to click on it and duplicate it. Ctrl J on my keyboard to duplicate, then I'll drag one of it down to this end. Now let's select this first eyeball and go to your layer panel and reduce the opacity there. So click the opacity and drag it down to 6% like so. And you can still type it in there 6%. So we are going to click on this one, and this time around we are going to type it in there. So select it and type in 6%. Then after that you press enter on your keyboard. We are going to add an image here and another one at the right. But we want to start with the one at the left. So kindly go to your project folder, click in here and grab this image here down to Photoshop. So I'm going to place it somewhere here. And I'm going to reduce the size a little bit like this. Yes. So I'm going to drag it up here. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to add a layer mask to this image. So come to your layer panel and you will see the layer mask icon here. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard and I'm going to click this layer mask. And once I do that, you find out that the image has disappeared and the image now have this black layer mask indication by its side. There's one thing you have to understand about layer mask. If the layer mask is black and the foreground color is white, then it means that every hidden images will show up once you click it with brush tool. But when the layer mask is white and the foreground color is black, it has its own effect, and that is going to be another video tutorial. But for now, since the layer mask is black, so let the foreground color be white. Now let's grab our brush tool and we are going to start clicking this area where we pasted the image. But before we do that, let's set our flow to 10% here. So type in 10% and press enter. Remember, our layer mask is black and our foreground color is white. So I'm going to start clicking on this image I pasted here. So I'm going to click there multiple times like so until the image starts revealing the way I want it. I think it's okay like this for me. That is how layer mask works. So now we are going to face this other side, and what we are actually going to do here is to create a kind of frame here, and we are going to put image in it. So first of all, we are going to select our move tool and we are going to come down to this end and we'll click this plus sign here to create a new layer. Now this new layer, I'm going to double click on this new layer to rename it, and I'm going to call it black brush, and I will press enter. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to grab my brush tool, and I'm going to make sure that the foreground color is set to black because I want the brush color to be black. So if your own foreground color is not black, kindly click on it once and this color picker will show up. Click anywhere here and drag it down to the black area, and after that you hit OK. Then your foreground color will become black automatically. Now whatever you do with the brush is going to be black in color. Now I'm going to reduce the size of this brush using the shortcut keys on the keyboard. The left curly bracket is going to reduce the size of this brush like this, and the right curly bracket is going to increase it like this as well. But we want to reduce this size, so I'm going to hit the left curly bracket multiple times like so. There is another place you can actually change the size of the brush, and that is in here. So you click here, you will see the size of the brush I'm using is 125. So you can click in there and type in 125 and your own brush will become the same size as mine. So the next thing is to increase the flow to 100%. So I'm going to click and drag the slider straight to the right until it is 100%. Then after that, I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and I'm going to place my brush here and I will drag it all the way down like so. Now I'm going to draw the same line again, but a very lighter one. Therefore, I will need to reduce the flow this time to 16%. So I can click on it and drag the slider back, or I can equally type it in. So just type it in there 16% and I'll press enter on my keyboard. And after that, I'm going to come very close to where I drew the first one, and I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and I will click and drag all the way down like so. Now I'm going to select my move tool and I will click and drag this brush to the left, and I'm going to duplicate it to make it 2. So I'm going to click on it and press Ctrl J on my keyboard. So this brush is 2 now, so I'm going to click and drag the first one to the right like so, and this other one closer a bit. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to bend them a bit, and to do that I'm going to click on the first one and I'm going to move my cursor a little bit away from the anchor point, and the cursor bends. I'm going to click and drag it and rotate it like this, and I'm going to hit OK. So we are going to do the same thing to this one here. So I'm going to click on it, then move my cursor a little bit away from the anchor point, and I will have a bent cursor like this. I'm going to click and rotate it as well. I'm going to drag it back a bit, and I will hit OK. And I will adjust this one as well closely, like so. Now we are going to send these two black brushes to the back of these two white and gray background shapes. Now I'm going to select the first brush, hold down the Ctrl key on my keyboard, then I'll come to the layer panel here and I will select the second brush. I'll drag them down and paste them under these white and gray background shapes here. Now the two background shapes are on top of these two black brushes. So if you go to your layer panel and scroll up a bit, you will see the white and the gray background here. Then after that, we are going to be drawing the main frame. So I'm going to select my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a straight line shape here. Something not too big. Then I'm going to hit here. This shape is okay for me, and I'm going to double click on the inner rectangle of the shape to activate the color picker. Now the color we really need here is a golden color, so I can click anywhere here and drag to my desired color. But for this tutorial, I have a color code I really want to use for this line frame. So you go down here and type in the color code that I will be mentioning, and the color code is B76828. So you type it inside your own color picker, and after that you hit OK. Now make sure the move tool is selected. Then I'm going to click and drag this shape now and position it where it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to bend the shape exactly the same way I bent the two brushes. Using the same method, I'm going to move my cursor a bit away from the anchor point, and as soon as my cursor bends like this, I'm going to like rotate it this way. That's fine. Then I'm going to hit OK, and I'll select my move tool and I'm going to click on the shape and I'll drag it to this left brush like so. Then there's one thing I need to do here again. I'm going to duplicate this shape. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to hit Ctrl J on my keyboard to duplicate. So I'm going to drag one of the shapes and I'll drag it to the right like so. Now another thing here is that we need to send these two shapes as well to the back of this white and gray background, just the same way we did to the brush. So we are going to repeat the same step. So I'm going to click on the left frame and I will hold down the Ctrl key on my keyboard and I will come to the layer panel and click on the second one. Then after that, I'm going to drag both of them down and I'm going to place them right on top of our two existing black brushes. Now, one thing you have to understand is that both the two black brushes and these two frames, they are right under our gray and white background. Now, I'm going to add what we call Bevel and Emboss on the right frame. So I'm going to select the right one, or I can select it here at the layer panel. And I'm going to go down here and I will click this FX. Just click on it and you will see Bevel and Emboss. So click on the Bevel and Emboss. Now, this dialog box will appear here. So I'm going to drag it to this end so I can see through. Remember, our target is the right frame. I'm still going to push this dialog box up a bit, like so. Here I'm going to set the style to inner bevel, the technique have to be smooth, and the depth 1000. I'm going to leave the direction as up, and the size will be 7 pixels and the soften 16 pixels. I'm okay with that, so I'm going to hit OK, and that is for the right frame. So now we are going to do the same thing to the left frame. Now let's click on the left frame and go to FX, then click on Bevel and Emboss, and the dialog box appears again. We are going to set it the same thing. On the style, select inner bevel. Make sure you select inner bevel. We have other options in there, but we just want to use the inner bevel. So click on the inner bevel. Set the technique again to smooth and the depth 1000. Just make the direction up as well, and the size 7 and the soften 16 pixels. Then I'm going to hit OK to this. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to go straight to my project folder, and I'm going to grab this eye image I'm going to use, drag it down straight to Photoshop, and I'm going to paste it somewhere here. And I'm going to reduce the size to something like this, and I'm going to drag it straight to the shape I have created. Okay, now I'm going to add a layer mask to it just the way I added on this left image here. So click on the eye, then hold down the Alt key on my keyboard. Then I'm going to go down to the layer panel and I'm going to click on this layer mask icon here. As you can see, the image has just disappeared like you know, and it has also created a black layer mask indication by the side. Remember what I told you before, that if we want this hidden image to show up with our brush tool, we have to set the foreground color to white since the layer mask is black. Now I'm going to select my brush tool, so click on the brush tool, and I'm going to increase the size of this brush by pressing the right curly bracket on my keyboard multiple times, like so. Now let's check the size of this brush, that is size 300 pixels. So you can still type it on your own, 300 pixels. I'm going to set the flow to 16, it's already on 16. Now I'm going to be clicking this particular area multiple times like so until the image shows up the way I want it. But I'm going to flip it now because of time. Now the next thing is to write the name of the church, so I'm going to grab my text tool here, hit it here, and I'm going to type the name of the church, which is Salvation Gate Deliverance Ministry. Now with my text tool selected, I'm going to click on this text here. Make sure that your cursor is blinking, then press Ctrl A on your keyboard to select all the text. Now here, see the font I'm using, which is Swiss 721 HVBT. And the font size, I'm going to set it to 9 point. It's already on 9 point. That's okay. Now I'm going to select my move tool, then click on this text, and I'm going to adjust it to the left, like so. Then after that, I'm going to place my mouse at the very tip right here. Make sure the mouse changes to horizontal line shape. Then I'm going to hold down my shift key on the keyboard, and I will click here and drag it to the left. So I'm going to drag it to the middle like so, and I'm going to hit OK. Let me push it up a bit with the up arrow key on my keyboard. Alright, that's fine here. Now I want to apply a drop shadow on this text, and to do that, I'm going to select my move tool. Then I'm going to make sure the text is selected. Then I'm going to come down here at the layer panel, at the footer, and I'm going to click on this FX. Then on this drop down, I'm going to select drop shadow. Now we have this dialog box. I'm going to shift this box a little bit right so I can see the text clearly. So before we touch any other settings here, let's make sure that the color is on black. So I'm going to click on this color box here, and in this color picker, I'm going to click anywhere here, drag down to the black area like so. So I'm going to hit OK. Now we are going to leave the size at 21 and the spread 35, then the distance should be 11 and the opacity 58. I think that's fine, so I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to select my rectangular tool and I'm coming to draw a horizontal shape, and I'm going to draw that somewhere here. Then I'm going to select my move tool, then come to the layer panel to locate the rectangle I just drew now, and I'm going to double click on the inner rectangle to show up the color picker. Now in this color picker, I can click anywhere and drag to my desired color, but I have already prepared a color code for this, so I'm going to go down here and type in the color code. And the color code is 766F4E. Now I'm going to click OK after typing in the color code. And here I'm going to drag the rectangle a bit down like so. So I want to reduce the size, so I'm going to put my mouse at the end like this, and I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and I'll click and drag back. Then I'm going to hit OK. Then click an empty space. Alright, so I'm going to bring in my logo. Now let's go straight to the project folder, and I'm going to click and drag this logo here down to Photoshop. I'm going to place it here, and I'm going to reduce the size to something like this, and I'm going to drag it to this center and click empty space. Now I'm going to be adding some drop shadow effect on this rectangle here as well as the logo. Now I'm going to come down here and click on this effects, and I'm going to select drop shadow. Now the drop shadow is already activated because we didn't disable it the last time we applied it on this text here, the church name. That's okay. Leave the opacity at 58 and the distance should be 11. Now the spread should be 35 and the size we are going to leave it at 21. Then after that I'm going to hit OK. Now it's time to add a bevel and emboss effect on this logo. Now I'm going to click on the logo, then go down and click on my effects again, then go up and you will see bevel and emboss. So I'm going to click on it. So in this box there are some settings we are going to activate, Now go to style and select inner bevel, then the technique should be smooth and the depth 1000 and let the direction be up, and here the size should be 16. So select everything in here and type in 16. Then the soften should be 16 as well. So here we are done with the settings and the logo has already been affected, as you can see. I'm going to hit OK. Now the next thing is to write a text on this rectangle here. So I'm going to write solution at the left and ground at the right to make it solution ground. So let me grab my text tool and I'll click here and write solution. And the font I'm using for this is Swiss 721 HVBT, and the size I like it at 9 points. So I'm going to hit OK. Now the next thing is to change the color of this text. So I'm going to select my text tool again, and I'm going to select the whole text, and I will click on this color box here so I can set it to yellow directly here, but I have a color code that I want to use for it. So I'm going to select all this other code down here and replace it with mine, and I'm going to type in FED 208. That's the color I want to use. And after that I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit another OK here, then select my move tool and place my cursor at the end tip of this text here, solution. Then check the cursor very closely. You see it becomes so horizontal in shape, and I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and I'm going to click and drag it backwards, and I will use the down arrow key on my keyboard to position it fine like so. Now I'm going to grab my text tool again, then I'm going to hit here and type in ground, and after that I'm going to hit OK. Then select my move tool again and place it at the tip end of this text like we did before. Hold down the shift key on my keyboard, then I'm going to click and drag it left like so, and I'm going to hit OK to that. Use the arrow key on my keyboard to position it fine like I did on this solution. After that I'm going to click empty space. Now the next thing we are going to do on this logo is to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to select my logo, come down here, click on my FX, select drop shadow, and I'm going to reduce the size of the drop shadow to 19, and that's all. So I'm going to hit OK. Now it's time to type in the theme of the sticker, and the theme of the sticker is "You monitor me, you die." Now I'm going to select the text tool, click here and write "you," and I'm going to change the color to black. So I have to select the whole text, then click on this color box here, and I'm going to click anywhere here and drag it down to black, and I will hit OK. Now let's change the font, and the font I will be using for this is Franklin Gothic Book. So I'm going to be typing in here Franklin Gothic Book regular, and that's the first one. So let's select the first one, and I'm going to increase the size of this font to 15. We can increase it later, but for now let's leave it at 15, and I'm going to hit this OK. So I'm going to select my move tool. If you check the text very well, there are gaps between the Y, O and U, and I want to close those gaps. So to do that, I have to click on my text tool and select the whole text. Then click on this A symbol by the right, that is character, and this will show up. But if you don't have this letter here, kindly go to the window menu here and scroll down, you will see character. So click on character. Now you can click on the A symbol and you will see VA here. You will see the one written VA. So click on that VA and drag it backwards until you close those gaps as you wish. I'm going to make it -20 and that's okay. So I'm going to click OK to that. Alright, now I'm going to select my move tool, click on this text here and position it here for now. Maybe after writing other text we can reposition it, but for now let it be there. Now I'm going to click here to close this character box. The next thing I'm going to be doing here now is to type in monitor me. So first of all, I'm going to click outside to deselect everything. Then I'm going to select my text tool again. Then click anywhere here and type monitor me. That is capital letter. Then the next thing is just to change the size of this text. So to increase the size of this text, I'm going to select all of them. Then I'm going to go here on this T symbol here and I'm going to click and drag it to the right until I get the size I want. So I'm okay with this size. Maybe I will change it later. Alright, so then I'll go to my font family and the font I'll be using here is Swiss 721 BKBT. So now I have to type in the font in this box here. So I'm going to type Swiss 721 BK. That's the first one. So I'm going to get the first one selected. Then I'm going to click OK here. And I'm going to select my move tool and use it. Click on this text and position it well here. So I'm going to click on this U now and I want to increase the size a bit. So I'm going to grab one of the anchor points here, hold down my shift key and now I'm going to drag it up a bit. And I'm going to hit OK. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to duplicate this text, this monitor me. So I want to make it double. Now to duplicate this text, I'm going to select my move tool and I'm going to click on this text. Then I'm going to hit Ctrl J on my keyboard to duplicate it. Now this text monitor me is 2 as you can see here. Probably we are going to use just 2 colors, so we are going to add 2 colors to this first one now. And we are going to leave the second one, that is the down one, we are going to leave it at black color. And the kind of color I'm going to give to it is a gradient color. And you know gradient color can be more than one color. Alright, now remember the down one, which is the black one, is the one we are going to add a drop shadow to, and the gradient one, we are not going to add any drop shadow to it, remember. Then I'm going to select my move tool, then I'm going to click on this black one, this monitor me, the down one, and I'm going to come down here and click on FX. Then on this drop down menu, I'm going to select drop shadow. The distance, I'm going to make the distance 10. Then the opacity, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 24 and I'm going to make the font size 15 and I'm making the spread 27. Alright, that's all. I'm going to hit OK to that. Remember the first one, which is the one at the top, we are going to change the color and we are not going to add any drop shadow to it. I hope you remember. Now I'm going to select my move tool and click on the first one, the one at the top, and I'm going to add gradient overlay. I'm going to come down to FX here and on this drop down, click on gradient overlay. Alright, here we have few things we are going to be setting up here. So the color, we are going to use 2 colors. Just make sure the blend mode is normal and I'm going to make the opacity 100%. Then I'm going to untick this reverse for now. Now I'm going to click inside this gradient and then when we do that, you will see 2 sliders here. But if you have more than 2 sliders on your own, I'm going to quickly show you how to remove the ones you don't want to use. For example, let's say you have more than 2 sliders like so. So how to get rid of this is just a simple step. Click on this one and you hit delete. So just leave this one at this end and leave this other one at this end because we need only just 2 sliders for this tutorial. Meaning we are going to be leaving the left one and we are going to leave the right one as well. So you click on this middle one and hit delete. Alright, so we have only 2 sliders in here. Now, if you watch very closely on these sliders, you'll see there is a dot at the middle, and that is the midpoint. Don't push it to the left, don't push it to the right. Just make sure that it is right at the middle. Just come inside this box here and type in manually 50%, and that will place this part at the middle. Alright, now it is time to talk about the color. It's possible you won't have this color already activated on your own, so you don't worry, we are going to do this together. So now we have to place a color at the left slide, and we will also place a color at the right slide. So the left one is going to have the dim color and the right one is going to have the lighter color. Alright, so now click on the left slide and you will see this color box here. So click on the color box. So you're going to type in 5E1816. So you type it inside your own color picker, and after typing that, you click OK. And you are done with the left. So now let's move over to the right one. So you click on the right slide, then click on this color box like we did before, and you will see the color code, which is E41E26. So type it in and you hit OK. And here you're going to hit another OK like so. So now here we are going to set the angle to 176. So if you watch this test very closely, you'll notice that the dim one is at the middle while the lighter one is on the right and also on the left. We don't want it that way. So we want the dim color, which is the center one, to become light, and we want the lighter part, which is left and right, to become dim. And to do that, just come to this box and click on this reverse here, and we will get something like this. Now, once this dialog box is still on, you can click on this color and drag it to anywhere you want. In this case, I'm going to position it at the middle like so. Remember, the dialog box have to be on for you to do this. So if the dialog box is off, you can't do this. Alright, that's all. I'm going to hit OK to that. Now remember, this monitor me, there are two. So the one under is the black one. So I'm going to select my move tool and I'm going to click on the one under, which is the black one. Now, I'm going to be hitting the left arrow key on my keyboard. I'm going to be hitting it multiple times, like so. Just watch what happened to the monitor me test. So we will end up having this kind of effect. Okay, now there's one thing you have to understand about this gradient overlay. Once you apply a gradient overlay on a test, now the gradient overlay will be under that test like this. So when you want to open the gradient overlay box, so you don't need to go to FX anymore, just go under the test and double click the gradient overlay, and that will bring out the blend option box. So here there is one thing I just want you to understand about this test. So we are going to edit it to fix what I forgot to tell you initially. What I actually want to show you in this box is here we have to set the angle to 176 and the style have to be radial as well for you to get this color like this. Alright, so after everything, so you hit OK. So the next thing we are going to actually do now is to replace this O here with an I. So first of all, I'm going to select my move tool and I'm going to click on this text here, monitor me. Now I'm going to go to my project folder. So I'm going to click on this eyeball and drag it down to Photoshop. So I'm going to reduce the size of this I to the size of the O, and I'm going to drag it straight to where the O is, like so. Then I'm going to reduce it a bit, and I'm going to replace the O with the I. Then I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard to position it fine. And after that, I'm going to hit OK. Now, the next thing we are going to be doing now is to duplicate this test, monitor me. And before we do that, we just have to join the monitor me, the test with the eye, and make them become one layer. And still have it in mind that this monitor me is two. One is black, which is under, and the other one is colored, which is gradient overlay, the one at the top. So meaning we are going to add three layers together. That is the black one, the gradient overlay, and the eye. All these things are three different layers, but we are going to match three of them together to make it one layer. So I'm going to select the eye and I'll come down here to my layer panel. So I'm going to actually hold down the control key on my keyboard and I'm going to click on this monitor me, the one that has the gradient overlay. Now it's left with the black one, so I'm going to look for the black one, and that is the black one here, monitor me, another one here. So I'm going to hold down my control key and click on it again. Now we have succeeded in selecting these three layers. Alright, now I'm going to create a group for these three selected layers now. So I'm going to hit on this group folder down here. Now this group folder is actually going to create a single group for these 3 selected layers. So click on this folder and the group is created. Now I'm going to double click on the name to rename it and call it Monitor Me. Alright, so I'm going to hit enter. Alright, there is one thing I want us to do with this group now. I'm going to actually duplicate this group and I'm going to make use of one, then leave the other one for reserve. I hope you understand. So now I'm going to click on this group layer. So I'm going to hit Ctrl J on my keyboard to duplicate it. Now it is duplicated. So I'm going to reserve or hide this one under and make use of the one at the top. And to hide this layer, I'm going to click or blind this little eye by the side. So now I'm going to blind this eye here and is left with the one at the top, this one here. So now I'm going to convert it to a smart object so I can actually use it for what I want to use it for. And you know, when an object is converted to a smart object, then it can't be directly editable anymore. Now to convert an object to a smart object, just right click on it and on the drop down menu, you click on convert to smart object. Now it has been converted to a smart object. So now they are no longer 3. Now they have become 1 layer. So when I want to hide it, I will click this eye, it will disappear. When I click it again, it will appear as 1 layer. So now that it is converted to a smart object, I'm going to duplicate it again. So I'm going to select it and I'm going to hit Ctrl J on my keyboard. So now we have it too, 1 at the top and 1 under. So this one down, I'm going to select my move tool and I'm going to click on it, then use the down arrow key on my keyboard, press it multiple times to separate it from the one at the top, like so. So with my move tool selected, I'm going to click on this text, that's the down one. So I'm going to click on edit, go down to transform, and I'm going to click on flip vertical. Now I'm going to add the layer marks to this text. So what you need to do, click on it, come to the layer panel, make sure the text is selected, then hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and click on this layer mask icon here. Then the text will disappear. And the layer mask is black here, so here have to be white. I'm going to click on the brush tool. So click on the brush tool and the size is 300. That's 300. So another thing I'm going to be doing here is to reduce the size of the flow. So I'm going to reduce it to 10% and I will press enter on my keyboard. Alright, so the next thing is to make sure you select the layer mask, come to the position of the text and place this cursor or this brush. So place it right at the middle between the up one and the hidden one, like so. Hold down your shift key and I'm going to click and drag all the way straight to R. Now I'm going to repeat the step again, so just click here, hold down your shift key and I'm going to click and drag all the way straight to R. Now we have ended up creating a reflection, so there is another thing left. Select the reflection layer from the layer panel, this layer. Then select your move tool and create a new layer by clicking on this new layer icon here. So new layer is created. Now I'm going to rename it and call it black reflection. So double click on it and I'm going to type in black reflection. Then I'll hit enter on my keyboard. Then I'm going to select this black reflection layer. Then I'm going to move straight to my foreground color here and make sure that the color is black. But if your foreground color is not black, simply click on it and this color picker will appear. Just click anywhere here and drag it down to the black area. Hit OK, like so. And the foreground color will become black. So now after that, let's select our brush tool and come back to the flow, and this time make sure that it is 100%. So drag the slider straight to the right and that's all. Now you can increase the size of this brush by pressing the right curly bracket on the keyboard multiple times, like so. Now let's come to empty space like this white area. So I'm going to click here now to get this pure black color. And remember, that's the black we set our foreground color to. So now the next thing is to select my move tool and I'm going to click on this black reflection I just created from the layer panel. Now I'm going to move my cursor to the top anchor point like this, and I'm going to hold down my shift key and I'm going to click and drag and make it flat like this. Click on it and drag it up to this point here. Then I'm going to place my cursor at the extreme end like this at the right, and I'm going to click and drag it to the right like so. And I'm going to push it a little bit back. And I'm going to click OK. Alright, now the next thing is to type in the remaining word. So I'm going to select my text tool here. And I'm going to hit it here and I'll type in "you die." exclamation mark. So if you check here, you will see the size I've selected is 32. You can as well change the size manually the way you want. I'm using the same font, which is Swiss 721 BLKBT black. So I'm okay with the size. So I'm going to hit OK. Then select my move tool to position it fine. So I'm going to place it here like so. Then I'm going to hold this end, hold down my shift key and push it down like so. And I'm going to click OK. Alright, right here, there is something we just need to do. If you watch closely, you will find out that this reflection here is blending through this text. You die. And we don't like this, so we are going to get rid of it. And to do that, I'm going to select this reflection here. Then come down to the layer panel, click on the layer mask and come up here and select the brush tool. And there's one thing I told you before. I told you that when the layer mask is black and the foreground color is white, whatever you click here will be revealing like so. But when the layer mask is black and the foreground color is black, it will rather be closing every object. Now we are going to set the foreground color to black because we just need to close all this reflection at this end here because we don't want these places to be revealing. So what we need to do is to select the layer mask here, select my brush tool, then set the foreground color to black. So click on the foreground color, click anywhere, drag it to the black area. Then after that, I'm going to hit OK. Now with my brush tool selected, I'm going to start clicking this area now to close all those reflections that I don't want, like so. I'm going to select my move tool. Then I'm going to click on this text here, press the up arrow key on the keyboard to push it a little bit up. Then after that, I'm going to go to my project folder, select this blood PNG here, drag it all the way to Photoshop and place it anywhere here. Then I'm going to drag it to this word here, place it right at the beginning of the D, then hold down the shift key on your keyboard, click and drag this end to the right like so. Then I'm going to click here, hold down the shift key on my keyboard again and drag down like so. Then hit OK. Now it's time for me to, bring in my ribbon. So what I'm going to do is to come down to the layer panel and select the first layer. Then come down to my project folder and I'm going to click and drag this ribbon here straight to Photoshop. And I'm going to place it anywhere here. It's too big, so I'm going to reduce the size. So what I'm going to do is to, place my cursor on the down anchor point like so. And I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard and I'm going to click and drag it all the way up like so. And after that, I'm going to drag it down and position it where it's supposed to be. Then after that, I will hit OK and click empty space. But this ribbon here is on top of this text here and I want it to be under it. So what I'm going to do is to click on this ribbon, come to the layer panel, drag it all the way down and place it under this text, which is you die. Now two of them will be on top of this ribbon. So the next thing is to go back to my project folder, then I'll see this glittering star, click and drag it down to Photoshop and place it anywhere here. So I'm going to reduce the size, drag it and position it somewhere here. So I'm going to hit OK, select it again and duplicate it by pressing Ctrl J on my keyboard. Then I'm going to drag it to this very end. I'm going to increase this one a little bit here like so. Then I'm going to hit OK. Alright, so it's time to design the footer. So I'm going to draw two rectangles. Now let's select our rectangle tool and draw a rectangle somewhere here. And after that, I'm going to click here to dismiss that. Then select my move tool and click on the shape itself. Then press the up arrow key on my keyboard multiple times to position the shape like so. Now let's give this shape a color. So kindly select your move tool and double click on the inner rectangle here to get the color picker. And right here, I'm going to be typing in the color code we'll be using for this shape. And the color code is 4C4017. Then hit OK. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do here is just to increase the size of this rectangle a bit. So make sure your move tool is selected. Then place your cursor on this end at the top and hold down the shift key and drag it up a bit like so. Then hit OK. Now the next thing is to duplicate this rectangle. Just make sure your move tool is selected. Come and click on the rectangle and press Ctrl J on your keyboard to duplicate. Now we have a copy of this rectangle. I'm going to press and hold the right arrow key on my keyboard to position one of these rectangles to the right. So now I'm going to change the color of the rectangle at the right. So it's going to have the same color of the background at the top here. Now to do that, I have to just get it selected, then come to the layer panel and double click the inner rectangle to activate the color picker. Now there's one thing I just want to explain here. In this color picker, when you try to move your cursor away from the color picker, you notice your cursor changes to Eyedropper Tool. And what the eyedropper tool does is that it is used to select a color outside the color picker. For example, just watch this rectangle here. So I'm going to move away from the color picker, and with the eyedropper tool activated, I'm going to click on this pink color here, and you will notice that our object have changed to that color. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the black, the same thing. I'm going to click on the yellow, and it's the same thing. So but the color that we really needed is the one at the background, so I'm going to click here like so, and I will hit OK. So the next thing to do is to select my move tool, then grab the side of this rectangle here, hold down the shift key on my keyboard and drag it right to reduce the size. Then after that, I'm going to hit OK and I'll click empty space. So the next thing is to type in a word here. So I'm going to select my text tool, then click here and type in something like, "To be dull is to close your door." So I'm going to select everything here and change the color to white by clicking here, then click anywhere inside this color picker and drag it all the way to the white area, then hit OK. Now the font type I'm using here is Broke Script Regular. I'm going to leave the link below so you can click and download the font. Then the font size is 15 point here. You can even resize the text manually as you wish. So I'm going to hit OK here and select my move tool. Then I'm going to click and shift this text here to the left a bit. Then I'm going to grab this end with my cursor, then hold down the shift key on my keyboard and drag it all the way to the right like so. Then hit OK. Now I'm going to give a multiple color decoration to this rectangle at the left, and to do that I'm going to click on this rectangle and create a new layer by clicking on this little plus icon under the layer panel. Now we have created a new layer, so I'm going to rename this layer by double clicking on this layer, and I will call it rainbow color. And I'm going to press enter on my keyboard. The next thing is to select my brush tool. Now watch this foreground color here. The color is pink, meaning that whatever I use this brush tool to paint will automatically become pink. For example, I'm going to click here now. You find out that the color is pink. Alright, I'm going to press Ctrl Z on my keyboard to get rid of this. So the color I want here is the color of the background at the top. Therefore, I'm going to change the foreground color to that color by double clicking on this foreground color here, and in this color picker I'm going to move my cursor a bit away from the color picker to activate the eyedropper tool, and whatever color I choose with the eyedropper tool will be activated into the foreground color. So I'm going to click on this background here and hit OK. Now the foreground color has been changed. Then I'm going to reduce the size of this brush by pressing the left curly bracket on my keyboard multiple times. Then after that, I'm going to click on the very beginning of this rectangle here. Now I'm going to change the color again to yellow by double clicking on the foreground color. Now I'm going to move my cursor a bit away from the color picker to activate the eyedropper tool. So I'm going to click on this yellow here. Now hit OK. Then I'm going to click on this rectangle again. I'm going to repeat the same step by double clicking on the foreground color, then click anywhere here and push it all the way up to activate the pink color. And I'm going to select the extreme pink area like so, and I will hit OK. Now with the pink color activated on the foreground color, I'm going to click on this rectangle again like so. Remember, we created a new layer before creating these colors, so these three colors are in this one layer here we created. So what I'm going to do now is to duplicate this layer by pressing Ctrl J on my keyboard, and with my move tool selected, I'm going to click on this color. Then I'll press and hold the right arrow key on my keyboard to position it right, like so. And I'm going to duplicate it again. Click on it, Ctrl J on the keyboard, right arrow key to position it like so. Now I'm going to reduce the opacity of this set of colors by clicking the first one, hold down the shift key on my keyboard, click the next one, then hold down the same shift key and click the remaining one. So I'm going to click and slide the opacity backward, and I'm going to reduce it to 60%, like so. Now the next thing is to clip mask these colors inside this rectangle alone so that it won't be touching this white background. So to do that, I'm going to locate this rectangle. So this is the rectangle here. If you watch closely, you find out that all the colors are on top of it. So just make sure that all the colors are on top of the rectangles. So I'm going to select these three sets of colors by clicking on the first one, then hold down my shift key on the keyboard, click the next one, then hold down the same shift key and click the next one, like so. Now I'm going to right click on these three selected layers and I will click on merge layers. This will actually combine these three sets of layers to become one layer, like so. Now here is the rectangle and the one on top is the colors we combined in one layer. So meaning the colors are on top of this rectangle. So I hope you grab the arrangement. Now it is time to create the clipping mask like I told you before. So I'm going to right click on these colors and I will select clipping mask. Now the colors can never touch the background anymore. So it will only affect the rectangle. And this little arrow here shows that this layer is clipped to the rectangle under it. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to push the ribbon a little bit up so as to create enough space for what I want to write under. And to do that, I'm going to select my move tool, then click on this ribbon, press and hold the control key on my keyboard, and I'll put my mouse on one of these anchor points at the down here, and I'm going to click and drag it up like so, and I'm going to hold down the control key again and I will click on the top anchor point and I'm going to push it up a bit. And I'm going to drag this one down a little like this. I'm going to hit OK here. Then I'm going to click on this flare, press and hold the up arrow key on my keyboard to position it fine. Then the same thing goes to this one. I'm going to click on it, then press the down arrow key on the keyboard to position it fine as well. Now it's time to write the address of the church. So I'm going to grab my text tool, click anywhere here, and I'm going to change the color by clicking in here. And I'm going to type in the color code, which is 4C3F17. Then hit OK. Now let's go ahead and type my 7 Vitara Hotel beside Methodist Church, Accra, Ghana. Yeah, my 7 Vitara Hotel beside Methodist Church, Accra, Ghana. Alright, so after typing this, I don't really like this font, so I'm going to change this font. And the font I would like to use is Calibri Light. So I will have to select the whole text, then I'll go to my font family here and I will type in Calibri. Calibri Light, that's the first one. So I'm going to get it selected and I'm going to reduce the font size to 13 points. And after that, I'm going to hit OK. Then select my move tool and I will use it to position this text where it's supposed to be, like so. But the text is too light, so let's make it bolder. So I'm going to select my text tool, then select the whole text. Then I'm going to go here. Instead of light, I'm going to make it bold. Then after that, I'm going to hit OK. I think that's better now. Now it's time to insert the contact information. So what I'm going to do is to select my move tool, come down to my project folder. Then I'm going to grab this Facebook icon here, grab it down to Photoshop, and I'm going to release it anywhere here. Then I'm going to reduce the size like this, drag it down to this end, reduce it further. Then after that, I'm going to hit OK. Then make sure I select my move tool. Then use the arrow keys on the keyboard to position the icon the way it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to insert the remaining icon. Make sure my move tool is selected. Then go to my project folder. I'm going to grab this phone icon here down to Photoshop. Place it anywhere here. I'm going to reduce it a bit. Then I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to use the down and the left arrow key on my keyboard to position it the way it's supposed to be, like so. After that, I'm going to type in the Facebook address. So grab my test tool, then I'm going to click here and I'm going to type in Salvation Gate Jeremiah. Now I'm going to change the font type and the font size as well. So I'm going to select the whole text. Now I'm going to go to my font family and I'm going to be using Swiss 721. So I'm going to type it in here, Swiss 721 black, and that's the first one. So I'm going to select the first one. Now I'm going to leave the font size at 13 points. So I'm okay with that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to change the font color to the same color with this text here. Now I'm going to click in here and the color code I will be using is 4C3F17. Then I'm going to hit OK, then hit another OK here. Now I'm going to select my move tool, then use the arrow keys on the keyboard to position this text where it's supposed to be, like so. Now I'm going to type in the phone number of the church, so I have to grab my test tool, then I'm going to click in here and I will start typing 055 368 7683 / 055 another 55 91090. These are the phone numbers of the church and I'm going to hit OK. Then select my move tool and use the arrow keys on the keyboard to position it fine, like so. Then one more thing I want us to do before we go is to write something here. So I'm going to grab my test tool and I'm going to hit it here and I'm going to type in something like I am a salvation child. And I'm going to hit OK. Then select my move tool and I'm going to use the left arrow key on my keyboard to position it fine, like this. So I want to underline this text, and to do that I'm going to select my text tool, come back again and select the whole text, and I'm going to click on this A icon here. That's the character. If you don't have it, kindly go to Windows and you will see character. Just click on character. Then I'm going to click on this character here and you see the T with underline. So I'm going to click on it. So automatically the text is underlined. Then after that I'm going to hit OK here and I'm going to select my move tool. And I'll click on this text and push it up a bit. I'm going to increase the size, so I have to hold down the shift key on my keyboard, grab this end and drag it up like so. And after that I'm going to hit OK and I'll click empty space. Alright friends, that's how to create a simple church sticker. If you were designing alongside with me, kindly upload your design on my Instagram page so we can interact. If you have any challenge, you can simply reach out to me at the comment section. And if this video was helpful to you, kindly hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. Okay, see you on the next video.